New York, and on the new Hot 97 app. Ebro in the morning on Hot 97.
Ebro in the morning, Laura Stiles, Rosenberg. Give it up for friend of the show, Carmen Perez.
Yeah. Oh, bring your mic close, Carmen.
Justice
She's
League right here in New York City. Do we shout out Mr. B while we have, let's shout out Mr. B, of course.
Major shout out. I got to see him last night or yesterday.
Nice. How's he doing?
He's doing
And we're talking
great.
about Harry Belafonte.
That's right.
He's doing well. He's still dreaming about changing the world. He talks about some of the forums that he wants to have one-on-one conversations with people, and so that's what he's going to be doing in the next couple of months.
How do we get him up here? How do we bring Mr. Belafonte?
I think we got to go to him.
Yeah.
Can we go to him? You think we can go to him?
Oh yeah.
You think he'd let us bring some cameras and mics?
Ebro.
That'd be fun.
We've talked about it. I actually was honored to be invited to a sit-down with him. How long ago? This a few months?
That's about like 2 months ago.
Yeah. And it was good. It was a great event. Hearing him talk about things of the past, the future, young people around him who he's worked with, people planning for, continuing the fight for justice. So it's really dope.
What an amazing guy.
Now, in that fight for justice, the big talk right now is the When They See Us film, right? Based on Central Park 5.
It's on Netflix right now.
The case is being reopened. Cy Vance here I think he's the district attorney for Manhattan, has said he's not going to reopen those cases. How do you feel about that?
I mean, I think it's
at least that case and other cases that Linda Fairstein was involved in.
It's a miscarriage of justice, right? What we saw, I mean, if anybody saw it, and I recommend everybody go see it on Netflix, When They See Us is a true depiction of what happens in America every single day to black and brown and poor young people, right? The fact that people don't have representation, young people get picked up. There's a young kid that just got picked up in Brooklyn. Did you all see that?
Yeah, I saw a video of a kid walking down the street with his basketball. The police just pull up on him, throw him on the ground, arrest him.
You know he's my friend Sharifa's nephew.
That's Sharifa's nephew.
Yeah.
And it was just the wrong kid.
Oh, and by the way, he suffers from sickle cell anemia. So, and in the video, they body slam him. So he's not even strong enough to go to regular school. He gets homeschooled, and he was just going home with a basketball.
And they just body slammed someone without any idea who they were.
Right. I
Asking
mean,
for
there's
guns.
a video it shows the police just roll up on him and throw him on the ground. And so, again, this happens every single day. And so the fact that you have these prosecutors, right, these DAs that have put young people in jail and somebody like a Corey in prison, right, many, many years. And I think we need to reopen those cases. We need to reevaluate what's happened. I know the times were different in the past because that's when you and I were growing up. We were called super predators during that time in the 90s, early 90s.
Early 90s.
But the matter of the fact is that we need to do something about it. We know that.
Well, I think here's the biggest piece for me is the general public doesn't realize that police can lie, investigators can lie to intimidate, scare, people into a confession. And so when you're talking about young kids who don't have their parents, who can't use the bathroom for days, who haven't eaten, who are kept awake, and they're being screamed
no
at.
Legal representation.
They're being screamed at. They've already been thrown on the ground by cops. They have
and
no
they're
legal.
being told that they're going to go home.
Right. I mean, and you saw that in the movie When They See Us. If you watch the documentary about Central Park 5, a lot of people who are, skeptical of our friend Ava's depiction of Linda Fairstein, mostly Linda Fairstein is skeptical of it. The bottom line is you got it wrong, and you ruined some kids' lives. You can argue about the nuances of the film or if you were made to look evil or not and blah, 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 but guess what?
What happened, though.
What happened was evil.
Yeah.
Period.
But Ebro, there's another layer. They were accused of rape.
Yes.
You know what happens to people when they're accused of rape.
And they put a
they're
16-year-old in with adults.
Exactly.
Yeah, and the Corey Wise part of it is so hard because he absolutely should not be in there with adults. First of all, he shouldn't be in there, period.
Right.
And then he's in there with adults.
And he only stayed back in order to protect his friend, Yusuf Salam, right?
Right.
He couldn't leave him. So, I mean, shout out to our boys from Central Park 5. I mean, they're doing great things. I'm really glad that their story got out. I know them, Raymond, Yusuf, they were part of Justice League NYC, have supported us from the beginning. And to see this film has really brought a different kind of perspective, right? I didn't know. I mean, but then you didn't know until you saw it. And I'll be honest with you, it made me sick. And
it was hard. It was hard.
Yeah.
Part 4
it
especially.
made all of us sick. And I think it's brought a different conversation to the living room. The fact that my niece, who is 28 years old, a nurse, has no connection to criminal justice reform at all, was like, yo, Thea, I finally know what you do, right? And I appreciate you, but she's having the conversation. So a lot of folks, the general public is now waking up, right? They're beginning to kind of see with these types of film what's happening in everyday lives of people.
Well, and also, as you know, we've talked about several times on the show, society, taxpaying citizens want to see investigators and police when they hear about a heinous crime. They want to believe that their police force can fix all of their problems within 48 hours.
Or whatever.
And it's quick. They're going to put a face to the crime. They're going to lock up something like we've been talking about Chanel Lewis.
I was going to say, isn't that
over
what
in
happened with
Queens.
Chanel Lewis too? Like, doesn't it appear at least as if the timeline was getting tight and the police were just like, oh, let's get someone who makes sense here. And I don't know, the Chanel Lewis story just doesn't seem to make sense or add up.
None of it makes sense. I used to be a probation officer, right? I went into the system to do system accountability, so I wasn't like your typical PO. I studied psychology. My brother's impacted by the system. My sister, we navigated her as a victim when she got killed. But what I do know is that you receive police reports. And when you review the police report, it is your job to offer recommendations based on a social history. So you interview the young person, you interview their parents, you read the police report, then you send something to the court, and then the DA is the person who has the power to determine if they take your recommendations or not, or what type of crime they're going to actually.
And so if that district attorney is not sensitive to the crimes that I think they should be called crimes of police who are rushing to judgment, not wanting to be held accountable for their mistakes, police and investigators who can lie and intimidate families and kids, right, to get the conviction. If you're not sensitive to how this system works, you're just going to be a DA who takes the word of a police officer or investigator and just keeps status quo going on.
Because everything's on a clock. Right. So once you pick up a person, you detain them, you put them in jail or a juvenile detention center, whatever it is, you have to generate a police report. Then it needs to get to the probation department and to the district attorney, who then determines what they're going to recommend to court. Within those 24 hours, right, you now have to have a full-on case against this person in order for the court to make a decision. So it's all around the clock. People don't realize, that 48-hour show, right?
Yeah, 48 hours.
Right, exactly. It's kind of like
Or
that.
first 48.
First 48. Yeah, first 48. But yeah, so for myself, I used to do intake and investigation. So I used to have to gather as much information. You can't gather that much information in 24 hours to recommend. Sometimes parents are at work. Right? You can't get a hold of somebody's teacher. You can't get a hold of a pastor. You can't talk about and give a true picture of what this young person has been through and why they're there. And so then the DA comes in and says, well, let's upcharge, or let's, we're going to recommend a lower sentence, right? Or we're just going to recommend, alternative to incarceration. But it's really the DA, and it's important for us to have conversations. When we're thinking about the system, we often think about the police, right?
But the prosecutors and the DA is where the rubber meets the road.
Where the power is. They hold a lot of power in court.
We've we had Ken Thompson here when he was first running for Brooklyn DA, and that was a big push, and we were a part of the movement to help him become elected. The current Brooklyn DA came up under Ken Thompson. People are mostly happy with what's going on in Brooklyn and the overturning of cases, and now we're confronted with what's going on in Queens for the first time in 25 years.
Yeah, 3 decades.
30 years. There's an election taking place June 25th where we're going to select a new Queens District Attorney. We've had Mina Malik up here. We've had Tiffany Caban, and we've had Rory Lanceman up here. All candidates that I think had good things to say. Do you have a particular candidate for Queens DA that you feel should get the nod, that people should vote for?
I mean, I'm not gonna say their name, but I've been paying attention to one, and it's because I know we have a lot of it's about really shared values, right? So as long as you are in there representing the people, right? And I'm not just talking about victims, I'm talking about people. A lot of people who enter the system are already victims, right? But that could see the big picture. It's not just about prosecuting, it's about getting a fair trial.
Why are you? Is there a reason that the organization doesn't want to come out and endorse someone, or are you guys going to endorse someone?
We can't as a 501c3. Personally, I can. I
okay.
could say who I'm.
But you're
I'm gonna
representing the
endorse.
Gathering for Justice.
I'm
and
representing the Gathering, but it's not just about the Gathering for Justice. I think I want to. Oftentimes, we endorse candidates, right? And I will give you an example: Mayor De Blasio, right? We had endorsed him before. It was somebody I had canvassed for, and then when he got into office, there was no relationship that we had, right? And he also ran on a criminal justice platform and never really delivered on anything that he initially had ran on. And so I don't want to make the same mistake of saying, yes, I'm endorsing this candidate, and then they get into that position and are not accountable to the people, right? So I want to see what they're saying tonight, because there's this forum that we are co-sponsoring with Forward USA. And there's going to be 7 candidates that are part of the run for the DA in Queens. And I want to see what they say. And I want to know how they're going to deliver. And what does accountability look like for them, right, from the people?
Where is the event tonight?
The event tonight is at the Criminal Justice Forum today at CUNY, CUNY York College.
Okay.
It's a push for the passage for the Khalif Browder bill. Right, Gathering for Justice is really proud to be working with. Is it FWD.US, Forward US?
Yep.
They partnered last year on the push for the passage of the Khalif Browder bill, and the Queens DA Criminal Justice Forum today, CUNY York. It'll have all of the candidates for Queens District Attorney. How many are there?
7. Is it going to be live stream? Can people watch it, or you have to attend?
I believe it's going to be live stream, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it will be live stream.
Yeah, we'll give you more information.
You can follow Carmen Perez at
Miss Lady
Justice. That's what it is.
Miss Lady Justice 1. You could follow New York Justice League at NY Justice League. But I think, again, we often think about how could we make a difference, right? We get pissed off. We're looking on Instagram. We're saying, let's repost. But there's an opportunity to show up tonight, right? There's an opportunity to really listen to a debate about how people are going to be responsible for the lives of people that are entering the system. And we could actually ask some real questions of them.
But it's always, as you pointed out, you supported Bill de Blasio. We supported Bill de Blasio. We're still friendly with Bill de Blasio. And there's things that we've openly disagreed with him
exactly.
on. There's no political candidate that's going to be perfect. I don't think that's a thing. They get the job, and then they're trying to make this person happy, keep a relationship here. I mean, de Blasio had the NYPD turn their backs on him. Like, he was at that level where it was that contention between him and the police force. How do we hold a district attorney accountable once they get the job? Like, I think that's a part of it, right? Like, I don't think people quite understand that once you've elected somebody, how can you force them to keep their word, or how can you help them keep their word, right? We loved Barack Obama, but 2 years into his job, he lost the House and the Senate, right? So he couldn't get things done that he wanted to get done. And we failed him in some regard because we didn't go out at the first midterm to support. So I guess that's the big question often sometimes. You have the election process, but then supporting that elected official in getting things done.
I think we need to stay engaged. So there's a couple of things. I think, in the criminal justice field, we all need to come together to really think about what it means to do system accountability, right? We haven't had that conversation intentionally. So that's one. But for everyday people, there are rallies that are happening on a daily basis, right? We just had a rally on Monday for the Manhattan DA to reopen the cases of Linda.
Right.
Linda
Fairstein.
Yeah, Fairstein. And so there's rallies that are happening. There's advocacy days in Albany, right? There's many organizations like Citizen Action that show up to push policy. There's showing up to vote. There's different ways in which people could stay engaged. There's signing petitions. There's
city council meetings.
City council meetings. So it's not just about, okay, I feel hopeless, but getting involved with organizations that are doing this work. Justice League is one of them. Forward USA is one of them. Citizen Action is another one of them. There's so many organizations. There's GMAC, Gangsters Making Astronomical Community Changes, who I just had to pitch because I love them. I'm getting an award tonight from them.
Shout out to GMAC.
Yeah, Shan Duke. But there's a lot of organizations doing this work, and so people could get involved by going online. You don't have to even leave your door. You could sign a petition.
So those
share
petitions
it.
really work.
They do. I mean, people, that's the voice of the people, right? If we sign enough petitions, they do work.
And do you think politicians are often afraid of how they're going to keep their job, right? I've heard politicians who talk about the voter, right? And that's code for, hey, y'all that don't vote, guess what? I'm not thinking about you.
Exactly.
Right? Like you'll hear a politician say, look, the voter says bang, bang, bang. That means they've done the research on the people who actually activate to the ballot box. They will make sure that whatever they're doing falls in line with that human being, whoever they are.
And I think one thing, we don't wake up until something personally happens to us, right? Then we all of a sudden become part of a club we didn't want to be a part of, right? And so we don't have to do that, right? We also don't need to be numb to the fact that every time we go on Twitter or we go on social media that we're seeing some video of somebody being killed at the hands of police. The mother from Arizona, right? Arizona.
Oh, the kid who allegedly stole the doll and then the police jumped up in her face and told her they were going to shoot her.
Let's be real. That shouldn't be happening in America today, right? But because we need more people to get involved, we need everyday citizens who are impacted. And I know people are tired. They work their 9 to 5. Maybe they're 3 a.m. to 10 p.m. jobs, right? But it's important for them to make a difference. It's important for them to show up, whether it's by retweeting. And I know a lot of folks are also not on social media, so we have to make it accessible to the folks that are not on social media. And that's why there's a forum tonight. It's a
you guys make sure you come out.
For Queens to come out, to listen to the different DA candidates, to see who they like, and to show up to vote for them.
I mean, this is one of the most important races, too, because everyone, I wasn't even aware that Queens was so backwards when it comes to justice reform.
Queens is bad as Staten Island.
I did not know that, and I think it was a surprise to a lot of us. So it's truly important for people to show up.
Queens DA Criminal Justice Forum today at CUNY York College. Follow Miss Lady Justice on Instagram. She'll have details, or FWD.US, the Gathering for Justice, and FWD.US, all getting this together.
NY Justice League on Twitter and Instagram. One thing that we have is a partnership with the Sentence Project. Hillary Blau is a DA out of California who's doing great work. There's also the DA out of Philly who's doing great work. Larry Krasner.
Krasner.
Yeah, and then we have Kim Fox in Chicago. So there are DAs that are, leading the way, and so those are the models that we need to, remodel.
Calibrate.
Here.
We need to recalibrate. Definitely here in New York. Carmen Perez,
Thanks,
ladies
Carmen.
and gentlemen, thank you so much. Great to see you.